What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Sunday, August 2nd. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this 6-game main slate. At the point guard position, I like Ja Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the San Antonio Spurs, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Ja Morant has averaged 32.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He's projected at 34.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.6 times value. He's $7,500 FanDuel salary and $200 less on DraftKings. Now I like this pick because Vegas thinks there's going to be 235.5 points scored in this game. So we got a high scoring game. It's a fantastic matchup. And he scored 45 fantasy points in 40 minutes last game with a 29% usage rate. So I like Ja Morant here versus the San Antonio Spurs. Okay, another point guard that I like is Ricky Rubio from the Phoenix Suns playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing point guards. Ricky Rubio has averaged 34.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's projected at 35.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.7 times value. He's $6,300 FanDuel salary and $900 more on DraftKings. And this pick also has a high scoring game. Vegas thinks there's going to be 237.5 points scored in this game. So I like Ricky Rubio here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like DeMar DeRozan from the San Antonio Spurs playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have the 8th worst defense overall, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. DeMar DeRozan has averaged 38.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He scored 44 fantasy points last game in 37 minutes, and he's projected at 39.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's $7,800 FanDuel salary and $200 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 235.5 points scored in this game, so I like DeMar DeRozan here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Another shooting guard that I like is Marcus Smart from the Boston Celtics playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Marcus Smart has averaged 30.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's going to get a little extra run because Kemba Walker is still limited, so Marcus Smart will be out there a little bit more. He's projected at 31.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.8 times value. He's $5,400 FanDuel salary and $1,300 more on DraftKings. So I like that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 229.5 points scored in this game. So I like Marcus Smart here versus the Portland Trailblazers. Okay, who do we have at the small forward position? I like Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Giannis Antetokounmpo has averaged 57.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 38% usage rate. He scored 69 fantasy points in 32 minutes last game. He looked really good, and now he's got a great matchup. He's projected at 58.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 11,200 FanDuel salary and 200 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 243 points scored in this game, so I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Houston Rockets. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, a value play for you here. I like Danuel House from the Houston Rockets playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing small forwards. Danuel House has averaged 21.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 14% usage rate. He's projected at 20.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's 4,200 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. He scored 33 fantasy points in 42 minutes last game, so that's encouraging. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 243 points scored in this game. Super high scoring game. So I like Danuel House here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, who do we have at the power forward position? I like Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the San Antonio Spurs, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Jaren Jackson Jr. has averaged 30 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. But look at this last game. He played 43 minutes, scored 42 fantasy points with a 26% usage rate. He's projected at 38.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 6.5 times value. He's 5,900 FanDuel salary and 700 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 235.5 points scored in this game. So I like Jaren Jackson Jr. here versus the San Antonio Spurs. And another power forward that I like is Robert Covington from the Houston Rockets playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing power forwards. Robert Covington has averaged 29.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. This is another player that saw a boost in minutes last game. He played 42 minutes, scored 48 fantasy points with a 16% usage rate. He's projected at 31.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 5,900 FanDuel salary and 500 more on DraftKings. So I like that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 243 points scored in this game. So I like Robert Covington here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Deandre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Deandre Ayton has averaged 41.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He scored 48 fantasy points last game in 34 minutes with a 19% usage rate, and he's projected at 43.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 8,100 FanDuel salary and 400 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 237.5 points scored in this game, so I like Deandre Ayton here versus the Dallas Mavericks. And what a surprise this next pick was. Can he do it again? I think he can. I like Jusuf Nurkic from the Portland Trailblazers playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing centers. Nurk scored 56 fantasy points in 33 minutes last game with a 24% usage rate. He's projected at 56.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 7.5 times value. Now, I think that projection is a little bit high. It's just going off that one game that he had, so we got to temper our expectations here. But he could put up a 40 fantasy point game and crush value. He's 7,500 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 229.5 points scored in this game, so I like Jusuf Nurkic here versus the Boston Celtics. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.